So for those who are attempting to identify what is causing autism spectrum disorder, we need to look in the right place. We know you cannot have a behavior without a brain. So we need to figure out, in those that exhibit those types of behaviors and have those experiences, what areas of the brain are developing and functioning differently. Then we should go from there to what may cause those areas of the brain to develop differently. Is it vaccines? Is it over-the-counter medication? Is it genetics? Is it environment? If we go from the source itself, understand what in that source, what in the brain is causing those types of behaviors, now we can draw a straighter line between what out in the world may be causing disruptions to those areas of the brain. But what we're doing instead is we're trying to throw darts at a dartboard and say, well, we found that in these situations we're more likely to have autism spectrum disorder. We absolutely should be starting at the brains of those with autism spectrum disorder if we want to figure out what's actually causing it. So we can get to the point where we have a cure for this developmental disability that plagues far too many. Again, we have to go back to the source though and stop working from the symptom to a word to an intervention. So we've established that the brain is the starting point for all human behaviors and all experiences. In my view, the human brain is the most complex system in the universe. If you think about it, the universe ceases to exist without it. We have to think about a universe, explore it, see it, sense it in order for it to be there. Pretty deep, right? So while this thing is unbelievably complex, the reality is it only has to do three pretty simple processes. So let's talk about those. The three things a brain has to do to generate a human experience are it has to process sensations. That's the first thing. So anything we see, anything we hear, anything we smell, anything we feel, even movements are sensations. All of these senses are sent to the back portion of the brain, or the integration and storage centers, which are in this back part of the brain. So this sensory processing, integration, and storage area, I call the sys systems. If we think of this as a life vehicle, these sensory systems are our engine. In my view, it's not even close to the most important area of the brain. We have to process sensations, we have to integrate sensations, we have to store them to think, to learn, to remember, even to facilitate movement. So let me give you an example of how the sensory systems or the engine works. The processing of building language requires the integration of sensations. For example, a 1-year-old who's building language in their home, when the family dog comes running into the room, mom looks at the dog, points to it, and says, "Doggy." So in that case, the visual centers and the sound centers paired what they saw with what they heard. And once they store that association, that fluffy thing wagging its tail, that's called a doggy, then they can use that language, if all these other systems are operating correctly, to begin to speak and communicate. And next time the dog runs into the room, they say, "Doggy," and everyone claps and cheers. So we're reinforcing the pairing of sensory information and the storage of that for later use. So that's how language is born, and that's how those sensory systems work. So in this life vehicle, we have the engine, which I pointed out, which basically is these areas here. The other thing that every vehicle needs is a driver. Someone's got to be operating the brakes and the gas and the steering wheel. Otherwise, we're in big trouble. So in our brains, our regulatory or executive functioning or ref brain systems play that role. They are the regulator. Metaphorically speaking, the regulator then is the driver, operating the brakes or inhibiting the activity in the sensory system, or operating the gas, exciting areas of our sensory system. It's this interplay of sensation and regulation that is so critical to the human experience. And it is this imbalance oftentimes between the regulator and the sensory processor that results in these various diagnoses that we come up with. And we're going to talk about that in a later video. So again, we have our sensory systems and our regulator. Now our regulator, in terms of the location, is up front here, down deep in the center down here, and down below with the cerebellum. So these brain systems begin here, go into the deep center and up front, and they're sending signals backwards. Excite and connect, or inhibit and disconnect and turn off. And this balance between the sensory systems and the regulatory systems is critical.